In a bustling city of Lagos live two couple Amara and Obinna. They live as one and love each other. Amara is a very beautiful woman. She always stay at home to make sure that her house is always clean. She don't have anything doing. Why Obinna is a businessman, he is handsome and always used to go to his office. They have two children, Joy and Chima. Every morning, whenever Obinna is going to work, he will take Joy and Chima along with him. Horny, the children are preparing for school. Should I bring them out? Amara asked. Then Obinna came out from his room. Are you ready for school? Obinna asked his children. Yes, Daddy, we are ready. Enter the car and drove out. Obinna reached his office and his secretary came in. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ella. Ella is a very beautiful woman. She love Obinna and want to have him. She knows that Obinna is marred. She want to take over Amara's home. She always wear short cloth to work. What is the problem? Obinna asked Ella, sir. You have a meeting with chairman of oil company, she said. Obinna said to Ella, oh really, I almost forgot. Prepare the document for me, I'm coming. Then Ella left the office. She was looking at Obinna. Why going? Ella returned with the prepared documents, placing them neatly on Obinna's desk. Here are the reports you requested, sir, she said professionally. Obinna nodded appreciatively. Thank you, Ella. These look perfect. Obinna was having meeting with some group of people in his office. Because his office is a very big office, they were talking about a business. Ella was at the window looking. At Obinna, she said in her mind, I will have you on my own. Obinna, you are very handsome, and you have money. You are every woman's dream. You have all it takes to take care of a woman. Obinna and his business partner are done with the meeting, and they leave the office with a smile on their faces. Obinna and Ugo walked out of the conference room, exchanging positive remarks about their successful business meeting. Ugo patted Obinna on the back. The presentation was impressive. The investors seemed genuinely interested in our proposal. Obinna nodded, appreciating his colleagues' support. It took weeks of preparation. We've carefully analyzed every detail of the project. Ella watched them from a distance, professionally maintaining her role as the office secretary. She approached Obinna with the day's remaining schedule. Sir, you have a reminder to pick up the children from school later, she said courteously, her tone purely professional. Obinna checked his watch and nodded. Thank you, Ella. Ella's colleague raised an eyebrow as Ella spoke about Obinna. That's not appropriate, her friend cautioned. He's a married man and you're his employee. This could jeopardize your job and professional reputation. At night, Obinna enjoyed a warm family meal with Amara, Joy, and Chima. The children chatted about their school day, sharing stories and laughter. Amara listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions about Obinna's work. When they were down eating, they went to bed. Why sleeping? The unexpected knock at the door created instant tension. Obinna and Amara exchanged concerned looks before opening the door to find Ella standing there, looking distressed. Ella's explanation about losing her housing created a complex moment for the family. Obinna, known for his compassionate nature, listened carefully to her predicament. Amara watched silently, her emotions a mix of concern and uncertainty. Obinna's response would be crucial. As her employer, he needed to balance professional responsibility with personal boundaries. Amara waited, her body language tense, watching how her husband would handle this delicate situation. Amara take Obinna to the room. I don't like this idea of her spending the night here. She have to found somewhere else. But Horny is already late. Where do you want her to go? Now they went back to the sitting room. Obinna showed Ella to a guest room, emphasizing that this was a temporary solution. You can stay here for tonight, he said firmly but kindly. We'll help you find a more permanent arrangement tomorrow. The next morning was tense. Amara prepared the children for school, her mind preoccupied with Ella's unexpected presence. The next day, Obinna, Ella, and the children left together, with Amara feeling uneasy about the situation. Blessing arrived. Amara shared her concerns. She described the previous night's events, her voice mixed with worry and uncertainty. Blessing listened carefully, her advice clear and protective. You must be cautious, Blessing warned. Her tone was serious but supportive. An employee staying in your home could create complications. Protect your family and your marriage. Amara's concerns went beyond just Ella's temporary stay. There was an unspoken worry about the young secretary's intentions, a subtle tension that needed careful navigation. Amara and Blessing enjoyed their time together, moving through the local market. They carefully selected fresh produce, vegetables, and other household necessities. Their conversation was light and companionable, filled with laughter and shared moments. Back at home, Blessing helped Amara prepare the meal. They worked side by side in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, stirring pots, and sharing stories. The kitchen was filled with the warmth of friendship and the aroma of cooking food. At the office, Ella's persistent attempts to get close to Obinna continued to be rebuffed. When she brought food, Obinna politely but firmly declined. His professional boundaries remained clear and unmistakable. Ella returned to her desk, feeling frustrated and rejected. Her colleague noticed her subdued mood and tried to offer support, but Ella remained silent, lost in her thoughts and plans. Ella's friend watched her with concern. The unspoken tension suggested a complex situation brewing beneath the surface, a mix of professional ambition, personal desire, and potential workplace complications. Ella confided in her friend about her feelings for Obinna, revealing inappropriate intentions. His wife doesn't understand him, she claimed, attempting to justify her inappropriate thoughts and actions. Ella unexpectedly arrived at Obinna's home during family dinner time. The atmosphere immediately shifted from warm familial comfort to tension. Amara's expression changed from surprise to concern as Ella appeared at their doorstep. Obinna quickly took control of the situation. His voice was firm and professional as he addressed Ella. "You cannot come to my home uninvited," he said, guiding her away from the family dinner table. His actions were deliberate, protecting both his family's privacy and maintaining professional boundaries. Ella stood silent, her gaze fixed on Obinna. Her unexplained presence created an uncomfortable moment for everyone present. The children watched quietly, sensing the adult tension. Amara remained composed but alert, her primary concern being the emotional safety of her children and maintaining the sanctity of her family space. Amara, sensing the underlying tension, stood up decisively. Her protective instincts rose as she saw the look in Ella's eyes. With firm resolve, she demanded that Ella leave their home, her anger evident in her stance and voice. Ella's response was desperate. She knelt down, tears flowing, explaining her difficult circumstances. Her story of wanting to support her mother and make a better life created a moment of emotional complexity. Her vulnerability was apparent, a young woman struggling to find her way. After Ella's plea, Amara retreated to the bedroom with her children. The emotional weight of the situation hung in the air. Obinna followed her, seeking connection and understanding. As Obinna lay down beside Amara, the unspoken tensions of the day hung between them. Their proximity suggested a united front, a couple facing a challenging situation together. The scene captured the delicate balance of compassion, professional boundaries, and family protection. Amara's initial anger gave way to a more nuanced understanding of Ella's circumstances, while Obinna remained committed to maintaining appropriate professional and personal boundaries. Amara expressed her deep concerns to Obinna about Ella's presence in their home. Her voice was filled with a mixture of anger and worry. "I don't feel comfortable with her staying here," she insisted, her body language tense and defensive. Obinna attempted to calm her, suggesting a temporary arrangement. "She just needs some time to get back on her feet," he said softly. But his words only seemed to increase Amara's frustration. Amara was visibly shocked by Obinna's willingness to accommodate Ella. Her eyes widened, her expression a complex mix of disbelief and growing anger. The peaceful morning was suddenly charged with unresolved conflict, took an even more uncomfortable turn when Ella unexpectedly entered Obinna and Amara's bedroom while they were still sleeping. Her bold action crossed a clear boundary of personal space and privacy. Amara's reaction was immediate and decisive. She quickly dragged Ella out of their private space, her protective instincts for her family's intimate boundaries fully activated. The invasion of their personal space represented a line that could not be crossed. The scene highlighted the growing tension between maintaining compassion and protecting family boundaries. Obinna's well-intentioned but potentially misguided approach contrasted sharply with Amara's more protective stance. Amara firmly confronted Ella about entering their private bedroom. "This won't be unacceptable," she warned. her voice filled with anger and protection. "Do not enter our room again, especially when my husband might be undressed." Ella left, but the tension remained thick in the air. Obina prepared for work, accompanied by the children. Ella emerged dressed inappropriately, which only intensified Amara's growing discomfort. Her short clothing seemed deliberately provocative, causing Amara's anger to simmer. Left alone, Amara broke down in tears. The fear of losing her family consumed her. To manage her anxiety, she threw herself into housework, cleaning meticulously and trying to maintain a sense of control. As evening approached, Amara grew increasingly worried. She called Obina repeatedly, but his phone remained unanswered. Her imagination began to create worst-case scenarios. The darkness settled, and Amara's anxiety peaked. When Ella returned alone, without Obina or the children, Amara's fear transformed into pure panic. Meanwhile, Obina remained at the bar with his friend Mike, drinking heavily and unaware of the time, his phone ignored and ringing unanswered. The tension in the house was thick with unspoken anger. Amara's eyes blazed with fury as she confronted Obina about his irresponsible behavior. "Tell me why you forgot the children at the school gate," she demanded, her voice sharp and accusatory. "What if something had happened to them? What if they had been kidnapped?" Obina, still weighed down by alcohol, slumped in his seat. His bloodshot eyes struggled to focus, and he remained silent, too exhausted and intoxicated to form a coherent response. The weight of his actions hung heavy in the room. Amara, seeing his lack of response, became even more infuriated. "Are you even listening to me?" she shouted, her hands trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. "How could you be so careless with our children's safety?" Ella sat quietly in the corner of the sitting room, her body tense and downcast. She seemed to be trying to make herself as small and invisible as possible, aware of the storm brewing between Obina and Amara. Chima, who had been lying in the sitting room, watched the scene unfold with a mixture of confusion and apprehension. The children's safety and the family's dynamics were being laid bare in this moment of intense confrontation. Amara, unable to bear Obina's silence, turned and walked into the bedroom, her steps heavy with frustration and disappointment. The silence that followed was punctuated only by Obina's labored breathing and Ella's barely perceptible movements. The next morning, Obina woke with a pounding headache, his mouth dry and bitter. Confusion clouded his mind as he found himself sprawled on the sitting room couch, memories of the previous night fragmented and hazy. "Amara," he called out weakly, his voice gravelly, "what happened? Why am I here?" Silence answered him. Amara moved purposefully around the room, her movements sharp and calculated. She was helping the children prepare for school, her back turned to Obina. Her silence was a weapon, more cutting than any word she could have spoken. Ella stood nearby, her posture tense and submissive. She had been waiting, watching, her eyes darting between Amara and Obina. Amara turned to Ella, her voice cold and decisive. "I want you out of this house today. Find your way. You cannot stay here anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy with years of unspoken pain and recent betrayal. Obina, hearing this, suddenly emerged from the couch. "She's not going anywhere," he declared, his voice rough but firm. The abruptness of his statement surprised even himself. Amara spun around, her eyes blazing. "What did you say?" "I said she's staying," Obina repeated, a hint of defiance creeping into his tone. "This is my house too." The children stood frozen, Joy clutching her school bag, Chima watching with wide, uncertain eyes. The morning's routine was shattered by this unexpected confrontation. Amara's frustration boiled over. After everything? After leaving our children at the school gate? After coming home drunk? "You have the audacity to say she's staying." Her voice cracked with a mixture of anger, hurt, and disbelief. The room felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode with unresolved tensions and long-suppressed emotions. Amara's confusion crescendo as Obina's unexpected defense of Ella left her stunned. "What do you mean she's not going anywhere?" she repeated, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. Obina's response was unexpected. Without further explanation, he simply opened the door and walked out of the house, leaving Amara standing in the middle of the living room, tears welling up in her eyes. Am I dreaming? She whispered to herself, her hands shaking. The children watched in silent shock, the morning's routine completely shattered. Later that day, at Obina's office, the dynamics took a dramatic turn. Ella, seeing an opportunity, approached Obina's desk with calculated movements. The office was quiet, most colleagues already gone for the day. She leaned close to Obina, her body language deliberately provocative. "Obina," she murmured, her hand deliberately touching his shoulder. Obina immediately stiffened. "What are you doing?" he said sharply, pulling back. "Please stop, I'm married, I don't need this." Ella's seduction turned to instant rage. Her face transformed, eyes narrowing with a mix of rejection and anger. She hadn't expected Obina to resist her advances. The rejection burned through her, triggering something dark and vengeful inside her. When Obina quickly left the office, Ella was left seething. Her plans had been thwarted, and in her mind a new strategy began to form. A strategy of revenge and manipulation. The confrontation between Ella and Amara escalated quickly. When Ella arrived at the house and found Amara lying on the floor, the tension was immediate and palpable. "You witch! What are you doing here?" Amara demanded, her voice sharp with contempt. "I thought I told you not to come back to my house." Ella's response was calm but menacing. "I have come to eat," she declared, "and please understand. If you want me to leave your house, it will not be possible. I have come to stay." The declaration hung in the air like a threat. Determined to assert her presence, Ella moved to the kitchen. Amara followed closely, her eyes never leaving Ella. When Ella reached for food, Amara's protective instincts flared. "Cook for yourself or leave my kitchen," Amara snapped, blocking Ella's access to the food she had prepared for her family. The children, Joy and Chima, returned home, seemingly unaware of the brewing storm. Amara, maintaining her composure, served them their food. After the children finished eating, she guided them to their room, tucking them in and ensuring they were settled. Exhausted from the emotional turmoil, Amara eventually fell asleep in her children's room, the day's tensions finally overwhelming her. That night was thick with unspoken tensions. In the sitting room, Ella and Obina sat separately at first, a careful distance between them. Gradually, Ella moved closer, her head eventually resting against Obina's body. This time, unlike earlier, Obina said nothing. His silence was a tacit acceptance that sent a thrill of triumph through Ella. Eventually, both Ella and Obina fell asleep in the sitting room, their bodies close, vulnerability exposed in the dim light. Amara, awakening during the night, came out and discovered the scene. The sight of Ella so intimately close to her husband ignited a furious rage within her. She roughly woke them up, her anger a palpable force in the room. "What were you doing with her?" Amara demanded, her voice breaking. "I don't like the fact that she is here with us. Please, I want her to leave my house." Her fear was evident, the fear of losing her marriage, of watching everything she had built crumble before her eyes. The vulnerability of her emotions lay bare, raw and wounded. That night marked a turning point. Obina began a dangerous pattern, leaving their shared bedroom and entering Ella's room in the dead of night. Amara would wake up, discovering the empty space beside her, and begin to cry silently, her heart breaking with each realization. When Obina returned to their room, Amara's desperate question hung in the air. "You slept in her room?" she asked. But Obina remained silent, refusing to engage, his silence more devastating than any words. The house had become a battlefield of betrayal, desire, and broken trust. The tension in the house reached a breaking point. Obina left early in the morning without a word to Amara, the silence between them more painful than any argument. The unspoken conflict hung in the air, thick with hurt and betrayal. Ella, meanwhile, was tormented by her own actions. Alone in her room, she was overwhelmed with guilt. Her mind raced with thoughts of what she had done. "Amara has been so good to me," she whispered to herself, tears welling up in her eyes. "She never did anything to deserve this. I am the one trying to break her marriage." The weight of her actions crushed her. The internal struggle was evident in her restless movements, her inability to find peace. Suddenly, she heard something that stopped her in her tracks. Amara's muffled crying. Following the sound, she found Amara lying on the floor, broken and vulnerable. In a moment that seemed to suspend time, Ella approached Amara. Her voice was filled with genuine remorse. "I am sorry for trying to break your marriage," she said, her words trembling. "Please, I am sorry." Amara looked up, seeing something genuine in Ella's eyes. The raw emotion, the true regret, was unmistakable. In an unexpected moment of human connection, they embraced. The hug spoke volumes, a recognition of shared pain, of forgiveness, of the complexity of human relationships. "What God has joined together, may no one come in between them," Ella whispered, a prayer and a promise. The moment felt like a turning point, a potential path to healing, to understanding, to rebuilding what had been almost destroyed. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and comment at the comment section below.